Yo, what is up, YouTube? If you know me, if you follow my channel, you know I'm always looking for cool, unique kind of studio tools. And if you, following that path, have been interested in or have recently purchased a Bass 6 in any type of way, I have a lot of ideas of modding, and I kind of wanted to go through the current state of mine so you can make your Bass 6 sound like this. Like this. Even like this. I think that there's a ton of room to mod it to your exact specs, get it to do like exactly what you are trying to do with it. So with my Bass 6 specifically, I bought the Squire and I did a handful of things to it. I'll kind of walk through quickly. I swapped out the tuners for locking tuners, minus my low E, it broke on me. I got thicker strings on it. I'm using round wounds, but I'm still using thicker strings than stock. I swapped out my bridge pickup for a Seymour Duncan Lil 59 pickup. I swapped out the tremolo for a Mastery tremolo, and then I added a Stay Trim bridge. Also swapped out the pickguard to black to kind of match my aesthetic, my guitars, all of that. Oh, and lastly, I sanded down slightly the back of the neck. It still is gloss finish, but the gloss was so thick that I decided to kind of get a little bit less so it wouldn't like stick when I'm playing. I guess we'll walk through all the different changes that I made on this. The first one was the bridge pickup. I find that when I'm playing this guitar, whether it's in like a rock setting, like a metal shoegaze kind of setting, or like a clean post-punk kind of thing, I kind of imagine it in like two different guitars, here and here. When I'm playing it as my guitar, I'll also use it as the bass a lot of the time. And I imagine this bridge pickup as like the guitar side, and then the neck and middle together as the bass side, or with the strangle switch enabled as like the clean tone side. The reason that I went with the Lil 59 was it's a humbucker pickup, but it's more vintage voiced, it's lower output, and I wanted to, especially with how low tuned this is, I'm in open D tuning, I wanted to retain a lot of the note clarity that you get from like a lower output kind of thing. I wanted to have the option to crank the gain, but not be like stuck to that. And that's why I went with a Lil 59 as opposed to like a Lil JB or a Hot Rails pickup or something like that. I think with the lower tune, and just in general with my preferences, that something slightly lower output helps a lot in shaping a tone. And then I've thought about swapping out the neck and the middle pickups for like Lawlers or something, but honestly, I love how they sound. They're great, they're killer. I was kind of going between string sets for a while, figuring out the perfect one. I know a lot of people recommend the Labellas for these. I think they're great. They're a little on the pricier side, and for what I'm doing, especially that I'm down in open D instead, I found that it wasn't thick enough of a string. I needed at least that 100 on the low E. I tried Callium, and I thought they were nice. I think that they have the best option. If you're trying to do some really, really wild tunings, they were the best option of strings to pick throughout like the different gauges. The only issue that I found with them, they don't taper at the end at the correct length. I found myself having to like, especially on the low E string, kind of unwind what was wound so I could stick it in a vintage tuning peg like this. But that being said, Callium's great. I've wound up settling on the Fender pack. They just started making their own Fender brand strings, and I think the tension's great. It hits exactly the way that I want it to. That leads, talking about the tuning pegs, leads to the locking tuners. Really, honestly, the tuning stability was already good. I just was having fun modding this and wanted to have a quick string change possibility. I'm using Goto locking tuners, and the low E one actually broke on me. I don't know if it's just because it's meant to be guitar tuners and I'm running a bass string essentially through it, but I tightened it so much that I couldn't loosen it. I even took pliers and was just mangling it, and I could not undo it until the whole tuning peg just totally snapped on me. So I went back to stock there. I'll probably switch it back eventually if I can ever find like one tuning peg on its own, but it still holds its tune. It still sounds good. It's probably best on the low E to have it wrapped a bunch anyways to keep that tuning stability. Next, we have the Stay Trem. How this differs from stock, which is also, I think the Ventera Bass 6s come stock with this anyways. It's a 1-inch radius, which just allows you to intonate a whole lot tighter, especially when I'm down tuning it. It's easy to run out of room here and get it perfectly intonated all the way down the fretboard. That helps me a lot with that. Also, talking about the fretboard, I do have a shim in here. I forget exactly what the measurement is on it, but it's common with a lot of the offset guitars that their break angle needs to move back a little bit so you can have solid action throughout. I've heard a lot of different things about what people wind up using or if they end up shimming at all. So I think that's a case by case basis really. I added the mastery vibrato. I really hated the stock. I got into this rabbit hole of like, if I'm going to mod this guitar and make it like the perfect guitar for me, I wanted to fix anything that bothered me until I got to a point where I was totally content with it. And I think that's where I am now, unless I decide to add an aluminum neck one day, but that's kind of excessive. That's just more fun. But I hated the way the tremolo felt. I could never set it up to kind of move as fluidly as I wanted it to. I could never get the tremolo to, like the whammy bar to stay. It was always either too tight or too loose and falling off. And this is just like perfect set. I don't know. It feels great. It feels awesome to play. It is kind of ridiculous to use a whammy bar on such a low tuned guitar, but I find myself, especially if I'm doing like mid-rangey chords or a lead, like a post-punk kind of thing, I'm doing the Kevin Shields thing a whole lot, and it sounds really nice there. Talking about mid-range chords, the reason that I play an open D on this is because I feel like it gives me a couple different spots to play. You could do the same thing with standard. I just really like open D tuning, but I find that when I'm on the low E string, which is tuned to D, but the low D string, a lot of times it's hard to play chords with it because it's so low. Even if I'm playing like up higher, I can get away with the power chord, but the tonality, it gets really dense. I like to save this for like the low D for like bass lines, or if I'm doing like metal stuff like chuggy single note power chord kind of things. When I tune to open D, it lets me get some really cool voicings on the top 5 strings and kind of treat it like it's a guitar tuned to A, like an open A kind of thing. I can do ninth chords really nice. If I do a power chord, skip a string, and then you can be in Deftones heaven with that kind of thing. But I find that it helps me get some really cool voiced chords in that area and do some cool clean leads and things also with like more clean tones. It does feel like a guitar because of the range of the notes. I have to view it differently, and this is my way of picking it up and approaching it like its own instrument rather than like a bass or a guitar. Yeah, that is my Bass 6. I love how it sounds. It really is a versatile thing to have. Even if I go stretches without using it, I think that there's something to be said about having pieces of gear in your studio that are different or are unique to you. That way you can make some choices that wouldn't always be made. That way you can do something a little bit more unique to yourself. And I think that, I don't know, I love it. Bass 6 is very sick. I recommend any of these changes to your Bass 6 if you have it, or to use this mindset of making changes to your own guitar, bass 6, anything, to mod it more to your specifications, more to your use case, more to your like what you enjoy. I think that making, especially with a guitar, like, I don't know, Fenders are so easy to swap things out. Making it feel as much of an extension of you as possible opens up the door for so much cool creative decisions in your songwriting. I might do some more rundowns of gear that I have in my studio, trying out some different like formats of videos. Hope this was helpful. Hope this was informative. Appreciate you all, and peace out.